A lot of years of this kind of hard stuff, and I was going to murder him. I was going to kill him, like the scriptures say, like Nephi killed him, just to stop the pain and to stop him coming after me and to stop him coming after my children. And I just felt I couldn't take it anymore. And I would go through the scriptures and find all the things like, if he comes against you once, if he comes against you twice, if he comes against you 3 times, then you can kill him. It says it in the scriptures in the Book of Mormon. I was like, there it is. There's my answer. I don't want to do anything that's wrong. I did not have a murderous heart. I just wanted to stop the bleeding and stop the pain. So I went and met my bishop, and I was like, I'm either going to turn my life to the temple or I'm going to commit murder. So do you want to give me a temple recommend? And I was perfectly honest, because at that point I had nothing to lose.
Nothing like laughing about murdering the father of your child after he dies. Let's bring in Court TV special contributor Ashley Banfield. It's unreal when you know, if you listen to it alone, but then you put it in context with everything else that's happening, it's unreal. But give us now a little bit of context of where this recording, this secret recording that you uncovered, Ashley, where did it come from?
Sure. So this recording was handed to us by Annie Cushing, and she is Joseph Ryan's sister. Joseph Ryan is husband number 3 of Lori Vallow, who died and wasn't found for, I think it was a whole week, and it was ruled he died of a heart attack, and there was no autopsy. And so Annie is quite upset that the Phoenix Police Department isn't opening up a murder investigation. And she took this recording and handed it to them and said, now what? Here she is talking about murdering my brother. Not once, but twice. Right there. I mean, listen, who among us, Vinny, honestly, who hasn't said, I could have just killed the guy, or I just could have killed my kids, they were being so loud. But you don't usually use the term murder. I could have just murdered her or murdered him. It's just it just sticks in your craw. Anyway, Annie handed that over to the Phoenix Police Department, hoping that she might get a response about reopening this case, looking into it perhaps. No response. Chandler police also have this recording. We don't know how they got it because Annie didn't give it to them, but they also have it because they do have an open murder investigation into husband number 4, Charles Vallow. At the time, they thought it might be a self-defense case between Lori's brother, Alex Cox, and Charles Vallow. Now, not so much. Now it's an open murder investigation, and they have this tape. You know who else has the tape? Rexburg. Rexburg PD also has the tape because they're looking at why these 2 children of hers ended up buried, burned, dismembered in her boyfriend and now husband's backyard. And the FBI, they also have the tape. So the tape is really telling, not just because she threatens murder twice regarding her ex-husband, but she's also talking to a group of, how should we say, associates of the Preparing a People religious group. And they're in Melanie Gibbs' home. And Melanie Gibbs is mentioned on the tape, and Lori's mentioned on the tape, and Zulema Pastine is mentioned on the tape as well. Zulema Pastine married her now dead brother, Alex Cox. And so they're all in Melanie's home. And it sounds as though Lori is really telling them all about her religious experiences. And listen, I'm all for religion and you know, things that, you know, you go through and how it warms your heart and fulfills your life and makes you do unto others. But this stuff is off the chain. I mean, it is really, it's just off the rails. She talks about her spirit sister kissing her on the cheek and disappearing into a wall. She talks about hearing voices that nobody else could hear. She talks about her excommunicated brother who's now woke. I think she says awake, though. And then she talks about being gathered by God as part of the 144, the 144,000. But you should hear her and how she talks about it to this gathering at Melanie Gibbs' home. Have a listen.
I was in the ceiling room one time and I saw a sister, a spirit sister. It was one of my husband's aunts, come over, and she kissed me on the cheek before she disappeared through the wall. And I'll tell you, I've had people talk to me. I was in the ceiling room with my husband and they were going through names and we were sealing these daughters, and all of a sudden I hear this voice super loud, really loud. Don't forget about me, don't forget about me, twice. And And I look around, I looked at the sealer, I looked at my husband, I'm like, anybody hear that? No? Okay. And so I remembered the name that we were doing, because we were doing like 10 daughters. I remembered the name. I went home. I looked it up on my family search. Sure enough, 2 daughters and a son that were on there that I had missed, because I don't even search it. I just let the angels do it. And I printed out their names. And I took them to the temple, and my teenage daughter did the baptisms, and I'm going in to do their initiatories. And they're both standing in the room with me, in the first booth before you go in. And they said to me, we're bringing our brother like you're bringing your brother. And I thought, how do they know that my excommunicated brother, who I love, who is now awake and knows everything I know, how do they know that? Because they know everything that is going on in our lives. They know everything. They're very involved in our lives. They're very interested in what we're doing right now, because this time, the time is now. The Lord is gathering his people. He is calling people to the 144,000. They're already being called. They're already being sent on their missions. They're already going full circle. The time is now. He is coming. He is preparing us. And we promised we would do it.
Well, I don't know if he arrived, but I didn't see him. In any case, that was 2 years ago. And you might have heard it, Vinny. I was wondering if you caught it when she was talking about my husband, my husband, my husband. And it's so easy to just sort of think of the husband that she's married to right now, who she's, now joined to in a trial, concealing the evidence of her dead children. But no, it was her husband, Charles Vallow, who was very much alive, but wouldn't be for much longer.
Well, let's talk about husbands now. This recording, putting it in this very complicated timeline, this is pre-Chad Daybell, isn't it? She has not, she's not making out at the BYU track with Chad at this point. She hasn't met him yet. He's not a part of her life. They don't have this relationship. So what does this all tell us about what's going on with Lori even before she meets the Doomsday Prophet?
Right. So very astute of you to notice that, because I think a lot of people have been trying to figure out, gosh, how could this happen? How could a woman be involved in anything so heinous and evil as to what happened to her kids? The kids were found in her new husband's backyard, under his backyard. So how could she have been connected to this in any way and then disappeared to Hawaii and gotten married? A lot of people have said he must have had some spell. He must have been some kind of Svengali, right? Really cast a spell over her. And maybe she believed him. Maybe he said something like, I've got your kids in a safe place. Maybe she really wasn't as guilty as some people might think. Until you start hearing the talk on this tape, when you realize Chad was not part of her life at this point. She was still married to Charles Vallow, and she was finding this religious group preparing a people. She would meet Chad, if Annie Cushing's timeline is right, in a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months. But this was all pre-Chad, so you can get into Lori's head before she meets this guy. And she certainly was following a lot of Chad's teachings too, the books that he read and the people he proselytized to. But I just want you to listen to this sort of pre-zombie apocalypse time in her life. I mean, we've all heard about the fact that she thought people were zombies, right? Especially when it came to JJ and Ty Lee. But here she is talking about herself in a previous life where she had pre-mortal existence, don't ask. And then that she was a warrior in another life, and that she's come back as a warrior, and that there's lots of female warriors, millennia worth of, I can't even, just listen to how she puts it.
I told the Lord, why would you do this to me? Why? You made me this super sweet person. I'm so sensitive. My whole life, everything hurt my feelings. I was totally sweet and innocent. And I was like, why would you ask me to fight this life and be this warrior? Why did you send me here? You know my personality. You know I hate to fight. I will avoid a fight at all costs. And he gave me a pre-mortal memory of me. And I got to see myself as a warrior fighting for the Savior in the premortal world. And I went to other worlds and I fought. And I was one of his strongest warriors. And I saw it. And he showed me so that I could never deny it again. I was not sweet and I was not innocent. I am old. I have fought. I've fought in this war for millennia. And that's who I am. And I came down here to be a warrior and fight. And I only thought that I was sweet and innocent. I am sweet. I am a sweet person. She is sweet. Don't ask my husband, but I am very sweet. He says I'm only mean in the mornings. Just because I never sleep. We have a 6-year-old that has autism and he never sleeps. He bounces on our head all night long. What's up, Mommy? Please wake up. Please wake up. But I will just testify to you. I don't want to go into any more detail, but I will testify to you that the Savior is real. He loves each of you. Like Melanie said, if you're here and this is resonating to you, it's because you are a warrior. You were a warrior before this. You would not be here in this room. You would not be awake if you were not a warrior in the life before this. And you have a work to do, and it's a mighty work. And what I teach the women, I am an advocate for the women. I have had an experience with my Heavenly Mother. She was a warrior, and we are her line.
That's a lot to take in. I wonder if you heard, Vinny, that little short, tiny aside, little anecdote. I have a 6-year-old with autism. That would be JJ. That'd be JJ Vallow, who I guess would be 11 months later was dead. So she wouldn't have a 7-year-old with autism for long.
You know, it sounds like she's really leading like a religious class here. And again, I don't have the full picture, but it sounds like she's kind of like, hey, listen, this is what I believe. And she's doing all that and talking about the roles of women, which, you know, to some extent I find a little ironic because, you know, as a mom, you know, not concerned at all about the children who are gone or buried in her new husband's backyard. What more is in these recordings regarding that?
So I'm glad you noticed this, that she is really wants to share, right? It's almost like she's leading this meeting. I don't know if she was or not. And the person who gave the tape to Annie Cushing is anonymous, so I can't tell you much more about the provenance of the tape and who the other people in the meeting, other than Zulema Pastine, Melanie Gibb, and Lori Vallow. But she almost sounds like she's one of the preachers. So again, for anybody who thinks that, you know, there was Lori, the gullible flock with Chad, I'm starting to get a different feeling because she seems pretty clear on her theories and seems to want to proselytize them to the group with whom she's meeting at Melanie Gibb's house. This next little bit I'm going to play you, again, so much of this stuff is just so off the rails. It's about the second coming of Christ and how the priests gave all the men the power, but then after that gave all the women the power. And now I don't even know who has the power anymore, but here's the way Lori puts it.
In fullness, the priesthood power, the women and the men together, they are side by side. They are equal in power and glory. Equal. And they're going to come together. Jesus is going to come with his eternal companion and reign. And they are equal together. There's not one more powerful than the other. And women have been protected. The first time Jesus came, he restored the priesthood to the men. And when he comes again, it's restored to the women for his second coming. And we are equal in power in priesthoods. But we have different roles. We have different things that we do. For we, the women, we do not come here to become like Father, like you, like Thor. We're here to be like Mother. We have her attributes. We have her wisdom and knowledge and understanding. That's why we're good partners for our husbands, because we are like unto our mother. who is all powerful.
I think I need a drink, and a stiff one at that, because knowing the date that was meta tagged on this audio file, 10/18 or 10/19, 2018, you do the math and the mention that she made in one of those clips of my teenage daughter, that would be Ty Lee, and it was 11 months later. She would no longer have a teenage daughter because that teenage daughter was murdered, dismembered, charred, and then dumped in a pet cemetery. So hearing her sort of talk about all these crazy theories and giggle along with her friends, knowing that 11 months later, the fate that was going to meet these kids, it's just really hard to stomach it. And I don't know about you, Vinny. I mean, is that the kind of evidence that maybe prosecutors could get before a jury? It's odd. It's certainly weird. And the fact that she talks about murder, she's not charged with murder
Right.
yet.
I think the only way is if she takes the witness stand and somehow something related comes up in conversation. I think that's the only way. But a lot of people listen to that, think of her, they think of someone who's evil, an evil woman. But I know Sunday night you'll be talking about true evil. Judgment with Ashley Banfield, 8 o'clock Sunday night, focusing on Eileen Wuornos, perhaps.
One of my favorite cases.
Yeah, the female serial killer from down in Florida. You got to watch it, folks. Thanks so much, Ashley.
Have a great weekend.